What is up, people? I'm Rahul Saigal. I'm the founder of Gamer to Maker, and this video is a special treat for you. So in Gamer to Maker, I teach level design as one of the main subjects, and this is actually part of a masterclass that I had exclusively for Gamer to Maker students. And I've decided to actually chop up my masterclass into 2 or 3 parts and release it to the public, because game design and especially level design is something that very few people know about. So this is going to be released in 3 parts, and I'm going to be delving into the real level design, basics of level design. You'll be able to understand what level design for games really means. So enjoy this and let me know. Let's go.
There's going to be a level design 1 and there's going to be a level design 2. It's going to be a more advanced topic and it's going to be very practical, right? So let's get started. So first of all, I want you guys in the chat to tell me about your favorite game worlds. Like, which are the game world that you guys have played? And like, forget about the characters and the story and the narrative. Just like you entered the game world and you were like, what is this? It just like blew you away, right? And you played, you were just like looking at stuff and like you were like, wow. So tell me about that. Uncharted, Shadow of Mordor, Elden Ring, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, RDR2, Assassin's Creed, Genshin Impact, AC2. All right, awesome. Okay, so here's the thing, right? A lot of work goes into making a believable and beautiful game world, right? You might say, what is game world design and what is level design? And they are kind of interchangeable, because what exactly is level design? But it is the game world broken into several pieces, step by step, right? Fundamentally, you can very easily use the term game world design, but instead of using game world design, we just call it level design, because it's like broken into several parts and then those parts have to be created, and that is why we call it level design. Okay, but you can use any of these terms, both names are fine. And all of these game worlds that you have seen, that you have mentioned, have like crazy amount of work. And level design is very technical. It's something which is also very instinctive at the same time. My story is that when I was at Vancouver Film School, in my class, we had 16 people and we had 4 games. And I was a level designer and I built the entire levels from scratch. So what exactly is game world design or level design? It is a process of creating the game environment world systematically and supporting the gameplay experience, story, challenges, and decisions that the game offers. Now, this is essentially what it is, but that's like all words. What practically is it? See, there have to be some kind of principles, right? There have to be some kind of guiding principles behind creating levels. Otherwise, you just be like, oh, my game is ready and now I'm going to create a bunch of levels. As a level designer, what happens is that you have your programmer who has told you, okay, look, now what I have done is that I've created all this functionality that was there in the game design document. I have the run, I have the jump, I have the pickup, I have the enemies, I have the spawn point, everything is ready. All the functionality is ready. And now all you have to do is create the game world. You have to create the entire experience of the player playing the game. So what kind of principles are you going to follow? How are you going to build it? What is going to be your strategy for actually building the levels and the world of the game? And this is what we're going to be talking about in today's class. Fundamentally, what is game world design? Game world design is the process of creation of interactively in the game as below. The physical environment, including terrain, buildings, skybox, objects. The missions that have to be completed by triggers. So for example, if you're playing Gears of War or whatever, and then suddenly you're walking and there's suddenly a cinematic saying, oh, a squad alpha is trapped in some random place. They're under attack. Move on and like rescue them and get the freaking artifact or whatever. And you're like, okay, that's my mission. So when you're creating interactivity with characters, whether, with NPCs, whether you're going to be walking into an NPC and the NPC is going to either try and kill you or talk to you or be your friend or try and marry you, whatever, like that stuff is also done by the level designers. Next, the environmental obstacles and hazards that the player faces, the enemies the player has to overcome. So the level designer will be placing the enemies and, okay, this is where I'm going to place a trigger here. So once the player goes through over here, an enemy is going to spawn inside this house and then come through this door and then attack him. This is going to be the health of that enemy, weapons that this enemy is going to have, etc. It's going to be like some Chotu Motu guy or some mid-level boss, right? The sounds that the player hears. So the level designers also actually place sounds in the game level. So for example, if you're creating a forest level, obviously you're going to be hearing like forest sounds. And then as you're getting close to a river, the level designer will actually go to the river, on the river, all along the path of the river. The level designer will place like kind of sound boxes or sound cues where there's going to be like river, water, rushing water sound. So if you're in the forest and then you're going towards the river, the forest sounds are going to kind of start fading a little bit, and the river sounds. And if there's, and then they'll have to create a waterfall, and the waterfall will obviously have to have a roaring water sound. So that whole thing, depending on where you are, what you are doing, where you are in the level, the sound also has to be created, right? And of course, cinematic sequences and cutscenes that are triggered. So that's basically you reach a certain point, you complete a certain mission, this character spawns at this particular point and says something, etc., etc. Now, the thing is, like, the funny thing is that a lot of us have been creating game devils since we were kids. You know, even my kids do it right now. Like my son and his friend comes over, and then they take their Legos and they put it here, and they'll have something here. They'll fight, and there'll be one particular character fighting with the other character, etc., etc. And then so we've been doing this stuff. We've been kind of creating these worlds where we play games for a long, long time. So what are the objectives of game world design? Like, what are you trying to do? What's the whole point of this? Firstly, it is to provide an appropriate physical environment to play the game in terms of graphics, physics, and lighting. So you want to play the game, right? You know, there has to be a physical environment to play the game, right? Next, very, very importantly, you have to teach the player the skills that she and he needs and give an opportunity to use them. Now, this is very tricky. Always, this is like very, very tricky. Like, I remember recently I was at IGDC this year and we were playing Supercharged. It's okay. Everyone always screws up. So basically, you're playing your own game, right? Because you played your game so much. If there's a jump that you have to make. Obviously, the game team can make that jump in the sleep because you've done it a billion times. You can just like go click, make a jump and make that level jump. Okay. And then someone new comes along, especially somebody old like me, and I'm trying to play the game. And I was like, I tried 20 times, 25 times to make that fucking jump, and I couldn't make that jump. It was just so hard. And it was just so frustrating, right? People are like, the game team is like, dude, bro, what's wrong with this guy? And I'm like, this is really hard. This is really, really hard. Not because of anything else, because you have to assume that the player is dumb and doesn't know this at all. Okay. So one of the most tricky things in level design is to get a new player into your game, good way, have them to start enjoying the game and playing the game. The mistake that 95% of people make in their game is that they assume that the player knows things, right? That the player doesn't. Secondly, they make the beginning way too hard because they're hardcore gamers and this should be hard. Not only do they do that, they forget that they've played the game a billion times. They know exactly what to do, and the new players don't know. 99% of new game developers make this mistake. Like, it's almost everyone makes this mistake. I've made this mistake. Everyone makes this mistake. Okay. Which is where play testing becomes really important. Get a new player into your game and don't be like, "Arey, press this, press that." No. Just don't do anything. Just sit down and watch. And if the player is not understanding, that means you fucked up. If the player is just dying again and again in the first level, that means you fucked up. You made it too hard. You'll be like, what's wrong with this person? And but you'll be like, okay, now you understand. Also, like, really good level design, basically replayability, right? It's not necessary because this is kind of a more advanced thing. But if you can play a game once and then go, man, I want to play this game again because I know there are stuff that I couldn't do the first time and I want to do this the second time. That's amazing, right? So replayability makes the game much richer. Okay. And then the last part is that everyone likes to think they are smart. Okay. Everybody likes to think they are smart. Nobody wants the game to guide them like a bacha holding a finger. Okay. Now you go there. They want to be like, I figured this shit out on my own. So you have to treat the players like kids and be like, Oh, you're so smart. Such a smart boy. Very good boy. So you guided them very, very subtly in what to do, right? And you kind of let them feel like they figured it out. Don't make it too obvious. If you're in the forest and there's a big sign saying, go through this gate next, you'll be like, okay, wow, thanks, man. I'm not stupid, right? But if you do something in that you change the light, if you're in a forest and you want the player to go in a particular area, maybe you draw the attention of the player by actually making a tree or a few trees which are slightly different or a different colored tree. And then the player kind of goes towards that area. And then the player is like, wow, I found it. And the player doesn't even know how he or she found it, but they were guided by you without them coming to know. Now, that is beautiful and elegant level design.